Lowell House originally started as a men's recovery home here in Lowell on Appleton Street. It ended up on Merrimack Street, where we started to do more outpatient services, where we offered a day programming. We had outpatient services, counseling, the Massachusetts Impaired Driving Program, and we've grown to have over 7 recovery homes, residential services, co-occurring enhanced programs. We've grown our peer recovery to have all different locations throughout Lowell. We have 3 different sites right now. Within our department, we have a street outreach team that consists of an outreach RN and a harm reduction navigator, whose main objective is to engage with people in the community that are high-risk individuals. The harm reduction navigators is bilingual. We've seen an increase in overdoses among the Hispanic population, so we're really trying to engage with people that may not have had resources in the past and get them Narcan. And so our nurse will go out into the community for people that might be hesitant to seek medical attention, maybe from past stigma or just not really wanting to go to the doctors. When the surge of opioid prescriptions really happened, people became dependent on those opioids, believing that they were non-addictive. And then once they were cut off from those opioids, or their tolerance got so high that their prescription wasn't enough, they started to turn to the streets to buy drugs. Fentanyl's showing up in almost all drugs right now. It is very, very rare to get actual heroin. Most of what is perceived to be heroin is actually synthetic fentanyl, so not even pharmaceutical grade fentanyl, which is 50 times more potent than opioids and 100 times more potent than morphine. So people that don't have the desire to use opioids are actually overdosing because fentanyl is completely taking over the drug stream. We've seen people overdose that are smoking marijuana that they've bought off the streets. We're responding to overdoses of people that are buying cocaine, and they're overdosing because their cocaine is being laced with fentanyl.
Fentanyl has about a 4-hour metabolism, where Narcan's 30 to 90 minutes. So fentanyl's still hanging out in the brainstem, and it can reattach to the opioid receptors after the Narcan wears off. Once the fentanyl wears off and opioids reattach, you can re-overdose. And a lot of people, if they don't go and seek medical treatment, they will go and use more, which will cause an overdose.
We're trying to get Narcan in the hands of anyone and everyone. It is not a harmful medication. It literally only works on your opioid receptors, so it cannot harm you. If somebody is unconscious, you don't know what's wrong with them, and you Narcan them just because you have no idea, even if they're not in an overdose, it will not harm them in any way. Overdoses have gone up a lot over the last 10 years, and we're seeing younger and younger people overdosing. People that live at home with mom and dad, people that have jobs, have a family.
When I think about addiction, I like to think of it really as a brain disease, because that helps people to understand it's not the individual, and it's not a moral failing, but it's the brain wiring that someone's limbic system's taken over with the use. So instead of telling people to eat, sleep, and procreate and do all the basic needs in life, it tells someone they need to use to survive. It's the survival mechanism in the brain.
Narcan, the pharmaceutical name is naloxone. It is an opioid reversal medication that comes usually in a nasal spray, and it acts directly on the individual's opioid receptors. So when a person takes opioids, the opioids attach to the receptors, and when too much of those receptors are activated, it starts to attack the person's respiratory system. So what Narcan will do is it'll go in, it'll kick the opioids off of the person's brain, block them from reattaching. And it only lasts for 30 to 90 minutes, which is why it's so important to call 911 and get that person medical attention, because when that Narcan wears off, those opioids are still in that person's brain. It can reattach and the person can actually go into another overdose. For our high-risk individuals, it's very crucial medication, because if the person's alive, they have a chance at living a healthier lifestyle. Narcan is readily available right now. It's actually being sold over the counter, so you do not need a certificate. I recommend anyone that does want to carry it to either take a training, read up on it, make sure that they know how to properly use it, but you do not need a certificate for it.
So now we'll do a Narcan training. Before you respond to anyone, I always like to check the scene. If you see someone who's unresponsive that you might have to go kneel next to, you always check and make sure you're not going to kneel on anything sharp, that you're not going to injure yourself. Then I always look for the signs of an overdose. You want to look for the chest rise and fall. If someone is not breathing, you immediately respond. Also, if someone's gurgling, like agonal breathing, gasping for breath, that's another sign of an overdose. Pinpoint pupils are a sign of an overdose. And if someone's nonsensical in speech, if they don't make sense when they're talking or if they're unresponsive, then if you have to kneel down, make sure, again, that everything's safe. I always have gloves on me, a face shield, and Narcan. I walk around with these 3 items everywhere I go. If someone does show the signs of an overdose, you want to then go down to their level, call, shake them. If they don't respond to like a, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? You try to make sure they're unresponsive. They're not going to respond to you verbally. Then you'll do a sternal rub. You'll take your knuckles and rub it really deep into the sternal area of the chest. So you take your knuckles, rub it deep in. If someone doesn't respond to that, then I do what's called verbal Narcan. But if I couldn't get to the sternum, if someone had multiple layers on, I would make sure to do a lip rub. I'd still try to get that pain stimuli to wake them up. Then I go to the verbal Narcan. People that have the Narcan before often will hear that and respond. Then I make sure I keep them up and stimulated. And we have multiple Narcans on us. And I never leave someone alone if they've been awakened to verbal Narcan. If they still don't respond to that, I'd immediately call 911, let them know I'm with someone who's unresponsive. You take the Narcan out, you pull back the foil, and then you would put the white plunger up a nostril and hit the red plunger. That would dispense a full 4 milligrams of Narcan. It's a very simple medication to use, and it works within minutes. I myself then set a 3-minute timer and begin CPR. With CPR, with transmissible diseases, I always make sure to carry a face shield to make sure that I remain safe myself. I'd insert that into someone's mouth and breathe into the filter there. When the 3-minute timer goes off, if you're still administering CPR and someone's still unresponsive, each box of Narcan comes with 2 Narcan. You would then insert another Narcan and administer another full dose of the 4 milligrams. And then continue CPR until the first responders arrive. I do like to mention the Good Sam law, which would protect a civilian if anything were to happen to someone, to the victim. If they weren't to make it, if they were to fracture a rib, you'd be protected under the Good Sam law. Also, if someone had an amount of drugs to use personally, they would not be arrested for that. What it doesn't protect is if someone has an amount of drugs to distribute, if they have active warrants or weapons on them. It really is just meeting someone where they're at and making sure that they're able to get the help they need in that moment, whatever it may be. For me, very much, it's what will help someone stay alive in that moment. So it is getting them Narcan, making sure that they know how to use safely, how to keep them alive during use, just different harm reduction tools, and that they have people with them when they use, and safe needles, clean supplies, and that people don't share things, so we reduce the spread of diseases. So harm reduction really is just meeting someone where they're at and helping them in that moment to keep them alive. I'm big on everyone have a Narcan in case that does happen, because people do get better at some point, and you never know when it's that time that someone comes to. Addiction takes many lives, but there's so many people that have gained recovery that are the strongest, most amazing people I know with amazing stories. I still have clients from 10 years ago that will reach out and be like, I'm still doing well and this is what I'm doing. And it's really beautiful to see. And it gives me that hope that, you know, working on the street, we have like 1 in 100 that may go to a detox, but that 1 in 100, they go on to do amazing things.
We have some exciting programs coming up with Lowell House. We're about to open our second peer recovery center, Recovery Cafe, which is a network that was originally created in Seattle, and we're utilizing the same model here in Lowell currently, and about to open a second peer recovery center in Haverhill, Mass. We're also about to open a reentry home here in Lowell for individuals that are just coming out of incarceration to reintegrate into society. If people are interested in learning more about Lowell House, you can go on our website. It has a list of all of the services that we provide. Our phone number is listed there. Feel free to call us. Even if you just have questions, you're not sure what service might be appropriate for you, feel free to call and we can help you identify that.